get started, so I can save this and close. We're live. Our mics are live. Doing a mic check there, Ethan. Hi, go ahead.
All right. We want to hit the stream deck. Go live on Roku. Click that.
Okay, so we should be live everywhere.
Alrighty.
All right. So sorry about that. We've had a number of issues trying to get all this stuff set up. So many buttons to push, and of course, I think I pushed a few wrong ones, and so it slowed us down. Okay, I'm Steve Horstmeyer, Ethan Emery. We're here to give you a little update as to our chances for severe weather.
You'd be live on Facebook. I don't think we're on there just yet.
Oh, I didn't hit the go live button. Yep. So
I don't even see.
Maybe just. Where'd it go?
Must have closed out.
Well, okay, we'll try and set our Facebook people up once again. Do it this way. Okay, Okay, for those of you watching not on Facebook, we're setting up Facebook, so if you want to go over to that, we'll be there with you in a few seconds. God, I hate this keyboard. It's what a mess. Okay, and we're going to give you a quick description called live instead of all the other stuff we put in there oftentimes. All right. Okay, so we copy that. They've changed this again. They got rid of the reset. Okay, one. Now we're already, okay, we were live on Facebook, but somehow it didn't. Okay, so we should be able to go back here to Facebook now.
There we
live. Go. Damn.
Oh.
Not on TV, we're allowed to say that. That's the great thing about doing streaming weather. There are a lot of words you can use that you can't use when you're on the air. Although I wouldn't use too many of them that way, so. Okay, let's see. Talk a little bit, Ethan.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Level looks to be a little good.
1, 2, 3 for okay, good. We're about even. I just wanted to make sure one of the mics wasn't too hot. Okay, this is our live update for streaming weather. We're supposed to start at 5:15, but that gave by being at 5:19, they gave a lot of people some time to get in and logged in. So, and then we will try to answer a few questions here on Facebook. So, if you have a specific question you want to ask us, you can go to Facebook if you're watching on another platform. So, why don't you go through what you see here on the radar, Ethan?
Yeah, so right now, what we've got is a line of shower activity. This is nothing severe. In fact, no lightning even associated with it moving through the Cincinnati metro area. And what we've got here is a good downpour showing up. In fact, Steve's going to look out the window. It's beginning to go over Price Hill.
No rain down here yet, and good visibility all the way out to Price Hill, so we're not seeing anything.
All right, we're not seeing anything just yet. And I did tell the Reds around 5:18 for an arrival, but it's just a little bit behind that. So looking more like probably 5:22, 5:23, when of the arrival of downtown for the shower activity. A brief downpour. I was looking at some traffic cameras, and this is, giving in all wet conditions on area roadways and some rain spray on the roadways for folks who are traveling here this afternoon. But what we're looking at is off to the west. This line here, what's happening is Steve and I were talking about this before we went live. The atmosphere is just not having a lot of convergence or that lift that you really need for thunderstorm development. I mean, for one thing, it's evident there's no lightning in any of these cells firing up. And secondly, the cells that we're trying to fire up towards Columbus, Indiana, are just fizzling out.
Now, the reason Ethan's emphasizing the cells around Columbus, Indiana is because this is what we call the warm sector, and if we were going to get discrete, which is like individual supercell thunderstorms, the ones that are famous for long track and big tornadoes, you would see them forming here, but conditions just aren't right, so that's delayed any onset of severe weather for us until, what do you think, timing-wise on this, 8 o'clock maybe?
I think this line here, yeah, at least 8 o'clock or so. And I will say this line here, even though things are weakening right now for us, I think this line still has a lot of punch with it. It'll still bring us potential for severe wind gusts, damaging winds.
Right, and time of day is working in our favor. It doesn't mean we're going to be storm-free, but that means the trend is that it won't be as strong when it gets here, but it still has that chance. Now, I was kind of surprised. You might wonder, he started off talking about the Reds. We know the Reds game's over.
Yeah.
They have to complete all the field preps for tomorrow, and then they have to decide whether or not to put a tarp on. One of the problems with tarping a field like that is that if there's enough sunshine left over, it can actually, in 15 minutes, burn the grass. So they have trouble doing that. But I think when you look at the cloud cover here, it's still, I mean, they're going to be past when the sun's high enough in the sky to be a problem.
Yeah, and I mentioned that in our group chat with them, that once the shower activity arrives, we're going to be pretty cloudy until at least 6 o'clock.
Okay, and so there, you don't see any tornado warnings around here. You just see, now we don't have the watch on there. Why don't you put the watches on?
I can do that.
And I'll give it to everybody full screen here.
Let's turn off the satellite. We just have that there for us to allow
That's
for us to...
That's exactly what I did when I did the last update. Turned off the satellite because you just had so much information there. Okay.
Yeah. So areas in red is a tornado watch that affects the Indianapolis metro up towards Fort Wayne, down to Evansville, over toward Champaign, Illinois. But for us, no watches at this time. In fact, I just checked our account we have with the Weather Service. There are no updates for a watch at this time. We're still got a couple hours before we really need to watch that line of showers and thunderstorms there in the Indiana-Illinois state line there towards Terre Haute before we need to make a call on whether or not there's going to be a watch or not. But regardless, that watch just to the west and northwest of the Fox 19 now viewing area. So at this point, the area of concern is going to be that line of thunderstorms, a lot of lightning with it.
Yeah, Weather Service just sent out tweet X. I don't know if you call them tweets anymore. But they said 5:15 now through 10 p.m. north of Dayton. And you can see the stuff up north is when they're concerned. And later on in the evening for everybody else. So they're saying the same thing you said. It looks like it's been delayed quite a bit because we just didn't have that instability ahead of the main line.
Right. And so at this point, our focal areas to watch, in fact, let's have a little bit of fun here. Don't get to have fun much often, so.
Yeah, you're more daring than I am. I try and do that and I end up with a mess every time.
Okay, so our area to watch is going to be over in here. Let's try that again. There we go. All of this here as it's going to make its way in this direction here. So ETA...
Pretty good.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've had a lot of practice on it. ETA is going to be between, I believe, 7 and 8 o'clock for Decatur County, and then after 8 o'clock for the rest of southeast Indiana into the Cincinnati metro.
Now we want to talk about what kind of modes of severe weather are we talking about? Hail? Haven't seen many reports of hail with this?
I've been looking at any of the information we get out of folks in Illinois and Indiana. Hail has been kind of minor for those locations. Pea-sized. I think there was a couple of quarter-sized reports of hail, but most of this has been just damaging straight-line winds. Now, areas north of Indianapolis, there have been some brief spin-up rotation where they did issue a couple of tornado warnings. Right now, this particular line here has not had any tornado warnings, at least from what I've seen here over the last couple of hours.
Well, and the other thing is that most, if not many thunderstorms rotate. It just is the environment right. And people always ask, where does that rotation come from? Well, thunderstorms rotating just don't happen. It literally imports the rotation from the environment.
Yeah.
And so if you've got a thunderstorm, most of them do rotate a little bit, but sometimes it's just like, yeah, that's not going to do anything. You've got to watch for them to import that rotation and to spin up. And it does not look like it's going to be that big of a thing this evening, although, I mean, there's enough rotation out there. Once we start to lose time of day in that, what do you think about the chances of tornado?
I think the chance for tornadoes has gone down since earlier today, and it's because of what's happening here. But I can't rule it out entirely just because the way this line, as it gets closer to us, it's going to lose some of that daytime heating that's going to work with. Still enough dynamics with it to work with for damaging straight line winds, but this could be a scenario where there could be maybe a brief leaning edge spin up potential. But at that point, the main threat's still going to be damaging straight line winds.
So, and they just issued a severe thunderstorm watch, I guess, for northwest Ohio, or is that an old one that it just?
That's new. That is north of our viewing area.
Yeah,
so, yep, it's beginning to come in right now. You see up here? this will begin to expand down this way just a little bit. But it's nothing more than that, yeah.
There, so yeah, that's not in our viewing area, but so they're still counting on activity being there. You don't have an erase button?
Well, there's this button here I could do. Quit. There we go.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, look at all the lightning here. I mean, there's just tons and tons of lightning. So from Kalamazoo to Fort Wayne.
Yeah, and a lot of tornado warnings down that way, too, over towards the Toledo area, Kalamazoo, as you said,
And
Detroit.
if meteorologist Erin Ashley hadn't joined us, she was formerly just in a Toledo station up there. She'd be very busy today. So.
Yeah, she certainly would. But yeah, a lot of these tornadoes even confirmed observed tornadoes here and over here. So with that, and it's bowing. I mean, that looks pretty impressive for those folks up along the Indiana, Michigan, Ohio state lines.
Let's see what this one says right here. Nope, didn't hit the box. There we go. Try it. There we go. So it's a radar indicated tornado warning. That's way out of our viewing area, way up northeastern Indiana for Angola, Ashley, Millgrove, Orland. I don't even know where most of those places are.
Me neither.
Hail size less than 3/4 of an inch, and so that's reinforcing what we said about the hail. Hail doesn't seem to be a big problem. It looks like it's going to be more of a straight line wind creator when it comes in here.
Right. So yeah, our still big concern is this line here to the west. Those showers and thunderstorms there pretty much following along I-70 from southern Illinois through central Indiana. And I guess the areas that we'll be looking at are primarily along and south of I-70, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then I'm not. Yeah, that. So many things can happen between here and here. And again, if you project along the movement of these cells along like this, these are moving like this. And so you've got to go all the way back here, to southwestern Illinois, really, to get the storms that will move our way, unless something forms ahead of it. But we don't have any signs that that's happening at the present time.
Well, one thing you were mentioning to me earlier is there was kind of this low developing here. So there's going to be a little bit of a cold pool that might help enforce this line to kind of interject a little bit, and not to mention, as you
and then
mentioned,
the other thing, when you have a low here, okay, you're going to have the winds what we call back like this.
Yeah.
So it's called backing, and sometimes what that does that reinforces this part, and it creates what we call the Cincinnati split. So as the flow backs here, all the energy's up this way, and then the remaining energy stays down here, and you get a split. So, but that doesn't look like it. It looks like there's some kind of a wave along the front here with the increased amount of activity. So we're going to keep an eye on it. There's nothing that threatens us for a while. I mean, my gosh, it's 5:29. We're thinking probably 8 o'clock before anything gets there, maybe longer than that. So
yeah, which I mean that's encouraging, and with regards to that discrete cell threat, because earlier this morning it looked like both threats were present, but. I mean, Mother Nature working in our favor here.
Let me take a look. I'm going to take a look at satellite and see what we've got.
While you're looking at that, take a look at some of the Facebook comments and questions. We'll switch places real quick.
I'll just stand back here in the background. Actually, I'll move over here. So it doesn't look like I'm photobombing you.
Okay. Got a lot of comments. Kind of hard to keep up with them. A lot of folks are asking, just hope this fizzles out. Yeah, I mean, honestly, me too. I would rather this thing fall apart than it create damage or harm to people.
There's no way that we like severe weather, believe me.
It's fun to track it, but at the end of the day, when it comes to impacting folks, a lot of empathy for, don't want to cause any destruction with any of these things.
Yeah, so even look, back here in the clearing, there's just no sign of any kind of discrete development back on the satellite. So we're looking back, if you look at this, into western Indiana, and there's just nothing developing ahead of that line. So I'm thinking the chance of discrete cells, which are the ones that cause the long track tornadoes, pretty much not going to happen now.
Yeah. So Lewis asked a good question. Do you both think the small line going through now may help stabilize things a bit or cut down on CG lightning?
Both. It's first of all, it could stabilize things a bit. That's by cooling the air, but it also could add enough moisture to the atmosphere to help increase the amount of available moisture when it begins to be lifted. And can you ask about lightning?
CG, cloud to ground light.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't think it'll do much with lightning. There's so much lightning out there. I think this is, it's like spitting in the ocean. Does it raise sea level? Of course, but can you measure it? Absolutely not. So it's probably insignificant.
Yeah, so people are just joining us now asking about have things changed since what we discussed earlier today, since you did the live update around 3 o'clock? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, one of the things that you've got to realize is that we put out a forecast, and there's a certain segment of our audience that watches that forecast. Let's say they watched it, yesterday morning when you did and they didn't watch again. But every single system, severe or not, evolves in its own way as it comes into our area. So sometimes they get worse, sometimes they come in exactly as we thought, and oftentimes they don't get worse, they get better. And this is one of those that is not evolving exactly the way we thought. And if you wonder why that happens, it's because we just don't have, when you get down to getting a tornadic supercell thunderstorm forming, you really have to get down to the molecular level to look at what's going on with the water vapor and all that. There's just so much information we don't have, and we have to use other variables which kind of indicate what might be going on and see how that evolves. And in this case, it doesn't mean we're out of the woods with severe weather, but it certainly is just not evolving the way the original estimates were.
Yeah. And some folks are asking, is it because it's cooler outside? And that's not necessarily true. It's still pretty warm out there. What we're missing here, there are some ingredients that are working in favor of severe weather, which is why...
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Finish out. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. I was just going to say that there are still ingredients in the atmosphere that could favor severe weather this evening, primarily the strong winds coming in. It's still pretty breezy out there if you walk outside. A lot of moisture, a lot of heat. Those are ingredients that help drive severe thunderstorms.
Yeah.
The one thing that's lacking, though, is that lift.
Yeah, and then you may also have felt, if I walked like 7 miles today, walked a bunch of dogs several times, and you felt the humidity out there. It felt, for the first time, it felt kind of like late spring, early summer with dew points rising. So we've got the moisture, we had enough cloud cover, but we just don't have the lift. And what's interesting is out ahead of this line that we've been looking at, there's an area over us that just kind of doesn't have any lift.
Yeah.
You just have to look at that on each individual system and watch how it evolves and see what happens. So.
Yep. And I'll moderate a couple of these comments here. We
Okay.
got folks asking, I'm confused, so tornadoes are not a concern anymore, but what about the winds and hail?
Hail, probably not. If hail, there might be some hail, but it doesn't look like it'll be large. Tornadoes, the long track tornadoes, no. Leading edge spin-ups,
Small chance of it, but it's possible.
Those are those short track little ones that are on the ground for just a short time. Generally EF 0-1, sometimes 2, and some, So that you can't rule those out. But a big news-grabbing, headline-grabbing tornado, probably not. Don't you think?
Yeah, agreed. And winds are still going to be an issue.
Oh, absolutely. Straight line winds will be an issue because we've got environmental winds out there. I haven't looked at the latest gusts. Let me look at this and see what they're gusting to. At CVG, the winds currently are gusting, they're 13 to 20 miles an hour, but they're not showing many gusts. It was gusting up to 30 earlier, so that's begun to settle down a little bit. They do have light rain out there. And one of the things we use is to judge the rain, how heavy the rain is based on visibility. And the visibility dropped to 5 miles. So there's enough rain to wet things down. But but the thing is, the environmental wind gust, if the winds are at 20 miles an hour and you add a thunderstorm in there with a 30 mile an hour wind gust, that gets you a 50 mile an hour wind. And so those thunderstorms could definitely cause some damaging winds.
Yeah, you can see that watch just now extended down over towards... areas just north of Dayton. So, yep. So
almost to 70.
Yeah.
I-70.
Yeah. So folks right now are asking about are any watches or warnings. No watches or warnings right now. There could be a watch next hour or a couple of hours from now, but we haven't heard any indicators from the National Weather Service or the Storm Prediction Center. But no warnings. In fact, I don't foresee any warnings until, what do you say, at least 8 o'clock or so.
Yeah, they'll probably, I'm guessing, because they'll have what we call a mesoscale discussion coming out pretty soon, which covers our viewing area. But right now, everything's focused west and north of us, and actually southwest too. So we're just kind of in that area where not much is happening, kind of what we call the Cincinnati split every once in a while. But you can see there's a lot out there. Let's show.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I thought we were. Oh, now I hit it.
There we go.
Now you can see there's a lot out there, but basically we're not talking about any kind of supercells that are discrete and out ahead of it, and so it looks like it's all. Not so sure. I just think it's a line of thunderstorms that's beginning to age and settle down a little bit.
So some folks are asking, so are things falling apart? No bad weather. Not entirely true.
Didn't say that.
Yeah, not entirely true. The most concerning aspect of these storms has died down, but we're still looking at that risk for severe weather this evening and tonight.
So Storm Prediction Center was talking about all modes of severe weather possible with this. That would be those discrete supercells, which could have long track, strong tornadoes. That's gone. Hail, the large hail is pretty much gone because that just hasn't been happening. Sometimes you've got to say, hey, we're looking at this, it's not happening. It probably isn't. So there's 2 modes that are gone. And then still have maybe some heavy rain, lightning, the typical stuff, and maybe some leading edge spin-ups. But that's all I would expect at this point.
Yeah. So that was something we kind of talked about from the very get-go when we issued this first alert weather day, but that introduction of discrete cells popped up about the last day and a half or so, but that fell apart, fortunately, in our favor. But yeah, at this point, it still looks to be a straight line wind scenario primarily. And folks are saying that they're still seeing sunshine out there, so they are a little concerned, which, rightfully so.
Let me turn the cloud cover back on here, and we'll show you where this will be the satellite blend,
yep.
Ethan. So again, let me turn off the watches. So
I'm going to switch that over.
And I will drag this a little bit so you can see it a little bit better in our viewing. There you go. So now you see that there are spots where the cloud cover is very thin. Bright white is the thicker cloud cover. And you can see there are spots where the cloud cover is thin, where it's heavier, or where it's thicker. And where it's thin, we would call it overcast, but for practical purposes, it's a high, thin cloud cover. Most people would say, oh, it's mostly sunny, so.
Yeah, filtered sunshine.
Yeah, filtered sunshine we used to call, or in some cases when it's a bit thicker, sun dimly visible. So that's when the cloud cover is thick enough that you can directly look at the sun and you can see it, but it's not thick enough to get rid of it. So okay.
All right.
Anything else we need to talk about?
Someone asked, still potential for severe weather or just strong? I still think the severe threat still is there.
Oh, I agree.
But it's going to be mostly for areas west of I-75.
I agree.
Yeah. Areas east of I-75, you still could see strong thunderstorms, but this line, it's moving into less favorable environment. And
it's going to be hard. The environment, since we've lost the time of day and we're not going to have, the sunshine's a moot point at this point. So things are looking better and better for us not getting severe weather and only having some straight line wind damage.
Yeah, and you mentioned this earlier. I wanted to point this out. You mentioned this here being the warm sector, which it truly is, but I've been noticing these cells. They're trying to form, but it's missing that one ingredient, that lift, that convergence, and they're just not lasting.
Now we'll watch this one.
Well, this one here, this is a good example.
Yeah.
It just fizzles out as it moved north of I-64 towards the Louisville Metro. Put this up full screen.
I'm going to zoom into this little one right here and see.
So this is not in our viewing area, mind you, but this will be one we're going to watch for.
Well, it's kind of got that interesting shape. It hasn't been around long enough to make me worry about, you see kind of that. Jeff Creighton used to
I was waiting for it.
Okay. Said, they look like pork chops.
That's just a cut up piece of pork chop.
So, but we'll and so you can see that's got a nice downpour there right along I-69 north west of Odin and southeast of Stafford. I'm not even familiar with that area, but that's the kind of stuff we're watching, and that is just to the east of the Wabash River.
Yeah, so that's well off in central Indiana
can
for folks
zoom
who
out.
are just joining.
Zoom out a little bit more, and you can see where it is.
Southwest Indiana, pardon me.
So and it's just a little spot there at the kind of the bend there in the interstate. So,
But yeah, so kind of evidence of what we've been discussing is right here. There's just not favorable development right now because these cells trying to fire up. This one here fell apart. This one we'll have to monitor. And even if it does develop, the track of it might be something for folks in Decatur, Fayette, Franklin counties to watch.
yeah.
But
Based on everything else we've seen today, I would really be surprised if that thing developed anymore. But I was in the next couple of minutes, we'll know.
Yeah.
It'll.
still note that this line here, this is the I guess this is the headline event, if you will, with what's coming in tonight. And do note all of the severe thunderstorm warnings all along this line. So it looks pretty gnarly. It is pretty gnarly. Looking
Yes.
at wind gusts, 60, some locations close to 70 miles per hour. This line will arrive here after 8 o'clock this evening. Straight line winds, primary threat. Secondary threat, heavy rainfall, a lot of lightning, cloud to ground lightning at that. And then maybe a brief spin up tornado possible, and then small hail. But again, the winds are the big threat here. And even though severe thunderstorm warning is not as attention grabbing as a tornado warning, you still want to take these warnings seriously because this time of year, a tree limb could easily fall over if you're outside. You don't want to be out in that, and wind damage is a serious thing. So that's something we'll be monitoring again after 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm just saying, and look, one other thing we look at is we look at what are called shear tracks. In other words, if the wind shear is just right, and that's the air that's being sucked up into the storm, there just aren't any out there. I mean, it's just nothing out there to talk about when it comes to that. So,
All right, let's take a look at some of the
Okay,
Facebook
so-
comments and questions.
yeah, and then we'll wrap it up and go go monitor it some more.
Yeah. People just ask about certain locations. At this point, timeline after 8 o'clock, and it's going to be from west to east, 8 p.m. through about 11 midnight. That's been kind of the consistent thing we've been monitoring in the model data. It continues to hold true. So severe threats pretty much around 8 o'clock through midnight here into the Fox 19 Now viewing area. We can't answer every specific location just because that would take hours. And then also to
Getting a little stronger.
a little stronger there. And then also folks are asking or talking about they're seeing some downpours right now, which is that line that is not really growing at this point.
Give me a second. I will zoom out and we'll take a look at that.
And then last question, folks are saying, will we be on later when these storms do arrive?
Yes. Yeah, we will be on, if necessary, we'll break into programming. If not, of course, we'll have our 10 o'clock news. I don't know, is it scheduled for 10 o'clock?
Yes, it's scheduled for 10 o'clock. And for those of you who are Simpsons fans or Family Guy fans, there's a potential of not breaking the coverage during those shows. And I know they're brand new episodes, so hey, listen, when there's a warning, we want to make sure folks are aware.
And we're going to try and do, if we have to break into program, we're going to try and be on social media simultaneously. We've got the ability to do that. We just never have done it yet, so we have to push the right button. So with Ethan here, we should be able to get it done. Now the pressure's on you.
Yep, pressure's on me now.
Okay, that's it.
All right, we'll go ahead and monitor things. If we need to post an update, we certainly will. But at this point, we'll be looking at some continuous updates, and if we need to update you, we'll let you know right here on Fox 19.